My name is Frank Shamrock, world champion fighter, martial artist, warrior. My professional journey took me to the very top of the fighting world, but that success came at a high price. I've left a lot of damaged relationships in my wake. Now, I'm 40 years old. I've come to that place in my life where I'm ready to confront the past. The Warrior's Code says that's the only way to find peace. So to move forward on my journey, I'm traveling backwards and telling my story in a way it's never been told before. My goal was to be the greatest fighter in the world.
When you look at the pantheon of the greatest mixed martial artists, you should begin with Frank Shamrock.
He was the best fighter at his weight class. There was no one that was better.
Five-time UFC champion. He was one of the first guys who really had the whole package.
The greatest mixed martial artist of the 90s. He was the best fighter of the decade.
Frank is a fighter. Never got tired. Aggressive. Technical. Different species.
He was ahead of his time. In my opinion, he was the first complete fighter in MMA.
He could wrestle, he could submit you, and he could strike with you. No one had really done that before in the way that Frank Shamrock had.
Everybody else was a kickboxer. They were a wrestler, the jiu-jitsu guy. He was the guy who went out and did everything.
I love Frank like a brother. I mean, he's one of my favorite people in the world. He was a good role model for a lot of these kids coming up from the street.
Frank is a pioneer. Frank's somebody who has been laying down the runway for guys like me to take off.
When you look at Frank Shamrock and know where he's come from and what he has had to overcome, martial arts saved his life.
First person who taught me about martial arts was my foster brother, Ken Shamrock. But we haven't spoken in over 15 years. I felt he disrespected me, so I split from him and my father. Ken never forgave me for that. And now, in order to find peace, I know I need to talk to Ken, face to face. And knowing Ken, anything could happen.
I'm not sure why Frank's doing this. There's a lot of stuff underneath the sea, a lot of bad things happening under there. Frank needs something. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's selfish. I don't know if it's for his career, or maybe he needs closure. I don't know, but I sense something different. So we'll see what it is.
Facing Ken, the pain of what happened between us won't be easy. But I've been dealing with pain since long before I knew Ken. Since I was a young boy named Frank Juarez. I was born and raised in California. It was my mom and us because my dad was gone.
Reading was up and coming. It was kind of growing. All of us were very close as little kids.
When I was 7, my mom met Joe, and we moved to Anderson for the first time. I thought maybe this guy could be a good dad. You know, he could at least help take care of us a little bit better.
But at the same time, he was an alcoholic.
That was really scary to me because I'd never seen, you know, anything like that. Well, Joe had a myriad of punishments. The scariest one for me was, you know, getting locked in the closet.
They would make him climb up in the closet and shut the door, and then he would be in there for hours.
As a little boy, it just crushed me. I was already drinking in the park with the hobos by the time I was 7. But the real trouble started a few years later, the night I pulled a knife on my little sister, Susie. I'd stolen like a bottle of schnapps or something, and I was getting a girl's drunk in the backyard. And my sister Susie was there, and she was like, I'm not telling you. And we got in this sort of verbal argument, and I grabbed a knife, and I told her, don't you ever tell on me, I'll kill you. She took it very seriously, went and told Mom and Dad, and police came, and Next thing I knew, I was sitting in a jail cell. I think I was just about to turn 12.
We kind of realized that there's nothing we could do at that point, and he's going to stay in the system, so we kind of went on with our lives.
Even juvenile hall wasn't as bad as my home, so I was like, this is awesome. I felt like I had some control of my life. I knew how to get out of really bad situations. You know, after that, I was like, I'm never going home, ever. I got out of juvenile detention when I was almost 13, and I was placed at the Shamrock Boys Home for troubled youths. For me, that was the start of a new life, a new family.
When I first went there, I wanted to run away. I'd been to I don't know how many homes, failed every single one of them.
Bob Shamrock lived like a king. You know, it was like he had his own little mansion. And then when he sat down, I kind of went to shine him and do my bit, and he just cut me off after about 4 words and said, you can stop right there and shut the hell up. I never had anyone call me on my shit or bust my nuts like that.
I was in college, and my dad called me. And he said, you got to meet this kid. You know, he's a good kid. He's got some problems, but man, I think if you can hook up with him and maybe, you know, mentor him a little bit, you guys are kind of the same.
So the first time I met Ken, Bob turns to us and just says, hey, if you can get Ken down, let me spank him 25 times. I'll take you all to dinner. I go, let's go grab him. I go to grab him. He turns around, he grabs my face. He smashes it right on the ground. One move. He looks at everybody, and everybody just backs away. And that was the first time I met Ken.
He's, you know, just like I was, just a punk kid. He was always laughing. His was, you know, partying and staying away from issues. Mine was anger.
Bob had all these crazy kids that were all troublemakers, like real troublemakers. And, you know, he just didn't want a problem. And it was as easy as saying, I got a problem with this guy. And we worked it out in a swimming pool. Put on 2 pairs of gloves, and guys would go in there and just slug it out until someone said, you know, I give up, and someone said, I'm sorry, and then we'd all move on.
I fought in that pool quite a bit. And usually after it was over, it was no big deal. Everybody was fine.
There's always been a connection between Bob and Ken. Bob really gravitated towards Ken.
This guy's my mentor. He's my dad. He gave me his life. Literally, he said, I am going to adopt you because I'm going to take care of you and make sure that you live life right. I'm going to teach you. I mean, a lot of people don't get to choose their sons.
Bob and them had something very special. I always wanted something like that with Bob, and that's why Bob, I think, was so powerful for me. I never had a dad. So he was the first guy who was like a real man. I started getting in trouble again right after my girlfriend, Christy, had our little son, Frankie. I was 16, still living in a group home, and suddenly I was a father. The whole thing was just a little too much for me. Christy and Frankie left me. So it was like the darkest day for me. It's like everything fell apart in one day. So I'd gone off the deep end and really went on a crime spree that ended up with me robbing a Taco Bell one night. They sentenced me to 6 years in state prison. It was commonplace to go around stabbing people with pencils and fighting each other and, you know, battling over turf. I just knew right away, I'm not gonna survive here.
He walked out of prison with long black hair, silky black hair. But I knew when he came out of there with that swagger and his attitude that I had to be the one, because he had to respect me.
Just threw me around like a rag doll. He put a real ass kicking on me. When I very first went to jail, I fought the biggest dude there. And I fought because I had to. If I didn't fight, it would have been years of abuse, and you ain't gonna abuse me no more. They gave me the adult prison number, so I put that on my right arm. And every once in a while, I look down and I look at these and I go, oh yeah, that's why I keep my, my nose straight and my head on right.
My dad came to me one day and he goes, Frank's gonna be out on parole. I said, what do you need me to do? And he goes, maybe you can, about getting Frank placed up here with you because he can't be with me because I'm running the group home. I took a breath for a minute and I went, you know, he's in prison. I said, prison changes people.
I made parole after 3.5 years in prison. I was 21 years old and ready to start a new path in life. The day I got out of prison, Bob was there, you know, with his Cadillacs and everything. I never appreciated freedom until I got locked up.
Ken Shamrock, the world's most dangerous man.
Ken was doing professional wrestling, and this fighting thing had just started. And my dad was like, look, I see 2 careers for you. You're handsome, you got a great body, you could be a great stripper. Or you could try this martial arts and wrestling thing that your brother's doing. Well, I was just deathly afraid to go to the lion's den. I mean, I didn't know anything about fighting at all. Prison fights are quick. You hit a guy, you stab a guy, everybody runs, they shoot, you know, everybody hits the cover, that's it. And I thought it was tough. I've been in prison, I had a rough life, so I thought, you know, how hard could it be?
There you go, come on, drive, drive. Pull back out, pull back out, pull back out.
Usually I did the initiations, and I beat the crap out of people. I literally beat the snot out of them. And I was going to have the other guys do it because I just didn't know if I could do it because I knew how much my father cared for him. You walk out of prison with long black hair, silky black hair, gorgeous body. But I knew when he came out of there with that swagger and his attitude that I had to be the one because he had to respect me. And so I did it. And when he was done, he respected me.
The whole goal is to make him quit. I think the first one we did, we had 12 guys and 2 made it. The violence, a lot of people can't handle it.
I'd never had my ass kicked ever in my life. Ken just threw me around like a rag doll. Tore my knees out, tore my arms out, he broke my nose. I mean, he put a real ass kicking on me.
The people that were in Lions Den, they were all attitude, puffing, big chest, all steroid guys. Those guys from the Karate Kid, the Cobra Kai. Lions Den guys like the guy from the Cobra Kai. Exactly, to a T.
Yeah, I could probably see why he would see that. We were hardcore.
The culture at Lions Den is a very kill or be killed, that's it.
But that's why we had all the world champions during that time. That's why Frank became a world champion. That's why Frank became the man he is today. Because he went through that brutalness. He knows he can go through it. He knows there's nothing worse he has to go through than what he went through that day.
After 6 months of training, Ken decided it was time for my first fight. It was in Tokyo with the Japanese promotion Pancrase. At the time, that's where the best no-holds-barred fighters in the world competed. Japan was the most surreal experience ever.
The Japanese scene from the mid to late 90s was like a high point that maybe we will never see again. One time I commentated on a fight that was 91,000 people.
I was terrified that my first fight was going to be in Japan. Then I found out my opponent was going to be Boss Rutan. At the time, he was one of the most dangerous fighters in the world.
The first time I fought Frank, I didn't know a lot about him because it was his first fight. You know, I heard he was the younger brother from Ken, so I figured he's going to have a ground game.
And that was all good until maybe about 8 minutes in. Boss just kicked me right in the nose, broke the end of my nose off. And I remember my head just snapped, and I remember going, oh my God, he's gonna knock me out, I gotta wrestle him. And then about a minute later, it was over. I walked over to my corner, and I'm like, and Ken goes, I don't know, man.
His very first professional fight. And he faced a killer from Holland, Boss Rutan, and he won.
That was the beginning of it. I was in Japan, I made a friend, I had a fight, like all these things happened. It was a really powerful moment.
Frank Shamrock adapted a lot of the Japanese philosophy, I think, within himself, the allowing of the respect to be shown to the art.
The day I got back from Japan, Bob told me he was going to adopt me. I was 21 years old, and for the first time, I felt like I had a real father. I became Frank Shamrock.
I think that's the first time he felt accepted. I think that's the first time he felt genuine love.
My experience in Japan changed me. When I got back to the States, I knew that I couldn't be the person or the fighter I wanted to be if I stayed with Ken at the Lion's Den. Ken wasn't there anymore. He'd signed to do WWE. He put me in charge, but I was given no power or sort of authority to do anything. I was just supposed to do, his way while he was gone. And I got lazy and, eventually he came in, and one night he just totally freaked out on me. To me, it was a violation of all the things he'd given me.
I think when Ken went to the wrestling, he relied on Frank to be Ken while he was gone. And when Ken came back, that's not what happened. I think Ken will forgive him, but I don't think you can pretend it didn't happen.
Ken told me that I don't have what it takes. I'm not going to be a world champion. I'm never going to be a world champion. And I should focus on what I'm good at, running his gyms, his way.
I just think there's a jealousy. I think he wants to be his own man. And I've always told him, if you ever feel like you don't want to be here, let me know. I'll give you my blessing. Just tell me. Don't run out in the middle of the night. And that's what he did.
I called my dad the next day, and he goes, son, you have to get right with Ken. And until you do that, we can't have a relationship. I felt like Bob let me down at that time. I knew he loved Ken more, but it just was what it was. My biggest physical accomplishment was fighting Tito.
I think there was maybe 9,000 people in the audience, and it sounded like there was like 50,000 because they were going crazy.
I just felt his fingers go up on my head, run up my cut, and start pulling it open. And I was like, Tito, you nasty what the hell's wrong with you? I'm on my way to meet my foster brother, Ken, face to face, for the first time in 15 years. We became family after our father, Bob Shamrock, adopted us both. To this day, Ken resents me for leaving the gym and abandoning the family. But in my mind, I needed to go my own way because we were different people, different fighters.
Frank Shamrock and Ken Shamrock are very, very different in a lot of ways. Ken is very, very confrontational. Frank was more of a scientist, whereas Ken was a brute.
Frank is a person who could carry himself in and outside of the cage respectively. Ken always thought he was too cool for school. People should be worshiping the ground he walks on. And I never really liked that.
The first real defining fight of my career was when I fought Enson Inoue in Japan, 1997. Whoever won that fight would move into the UFC and fight for the middleweight championship.
Enson Inoue is a barbarian. He is known for saying, at least once in your life, train with the will to die.
If you've ever seen the fight, it's like a knockdown, drag out, rock'em sock'em robots. And there was a moment in the fight where he folded me over backwards and was sitting on my chest and punching my face in, and I thought, this is the moment where I die fighting. I didn't. I got out and then kicked his ass and knocked him out, and my life changed from that moment forward. After I beat Enson Inoue, I got the title shot for the UFC.
Kevin Jackson, 1992 Olympic gold medalist, freestyle wrestling, just a stud athlete.
Frank said he's got Kevin Jackson. I'm going, what? Kevin Jackson? He goes, oh, yeah, Hub, I'm going to armbar him. And I'm like, okay. But I'm not believing it. I'm thinking, wow, Frank, you're going to armbar Kevin Jackson? He goes, oh, yeah, I'm going to do it.
I didn't think it would be that fast, but when he rolled in and went up for that armbar, I just sat back and thought, damn, he set him up. And took out a phenomenal Olympic gold medalist based on being smart.
When I won the UFC championship, it was like the biggest moment of my life, but I had won so quickly, and it was almost effortless. My biggest physical accomplishment and my most memorable physical act was fighting Tito.
It was the first time there was a concerted effort to really promote a fight and to make it bigger than life. And you had two not only great fighters, but you had two personalities who really were able to carry the promotion.
When the Tito fight came around, Henry and I got together. I was like, Henry, I don't want to keep doing this. This company's going down. I wanted to control my own destiny. I wanted to do my own thing. And I couldn't do that with the UFC. He just goes, oh yeah, just put in a retirement clause. It was just one line that said if I ever renounce my championship and publicly relinquish my title, the rest of his contract is null and void.
I watched a lot of his fights in Pancrase, and fights in UFC, and he would demolish guys. It wasn't a factor of him just out kickboxing somebody or out wrestling somebody or out doing jiu-jitsu with somebody. He would do it all. And I was like, wow, this guy's a full, true mixed martial artist. And I had a lot of respect for him.
Going into the Tito fight, I'm already a believer in Frank and his strategies. He goes, I'm going to wear him out, and I'm going to finish him in the 4th or the 5th round.
Some people have called it MMA's rope-a-dope, where Frank Shamrock takes damage, but he hangs on as Tito gets more tired and more tired and more tired.
I was going 100% nonstop, like a bull, nonstop every single round. And I remember in the beginning of the 4th round, I looked over at him, he was just bouncing, not even breathing. I was like, all right, what's going on here? He knew something I don't know. And I went for a low single, and he just punched me right on the top of the back of the head right here, and hit me again. And that's when everything just went, I couldn't hear anything.
There's Tito hanging on for dear life, while Frank Shamrock is hammer fisting him in the most brutal, pent-up aggression you've ever seen in your life. And Tito goes down, and the fight is stopped. It was a moment that proved that Frank Shamrock probably was the best fighter of his time.
He made it about his advantages, and he was undersized in that fight, outgunned physically, and won that fight by TKO. And that was, I think, Frank Shamrock's defining fight.
So after I beat Tito, I grabbed the belt, I grabbed the microphone, and I said, thanks a lot, but I'll see you guys later. I retire, you can have the belt back.
The early contracts tied up the fighters' rights to exploit their name, likeness, and personality. Well, Frank was one of the original forces to uncap that and think about exploiting that for himself. And I think that was a big contribution that he made.
I was the first real free agent. I mean, I got out of the crazy contract that nobody can get out of, and for a minute I was a hero because everybody wanted to do the same thing.
The idea of Frank and Ken fighting, I thought it was a great idea because they really didn't like each other.
It's a fight that should never happen.
We're a family of fighters, so it's not that big of a deal.
I love him so much, I'm gonna kick his ass. My confrontation with Ken is coming up soon. Part of me hopes that we can put all this baggage behind us. But then again, we're Shamrocks. Bob taught us to resolve our problems with our fists.
Ken would beat Frank hands down, no questions asked. Ken is so darn strong that it's hard to beat that strength. Frank's come a long ways, but if they were both to fight each other, my money would be on Ken.
As my dad had suggested, Ken and I almost fought about 5 years ago. At that time, I was confident it was the right fight for me and for the sport of MMA.
There is no story bigger than two brothers fighting each other and the reasons why they're fighting each other. And we fight each other because we love each other. I love him so much, I'm going to kick his ass.
The idea of Frank and Ken fighting, I thought it was a great idea because they really didn't like each other. With them, it was real.
If someone asked me, you need to give me a list of 100 terrible ideas, I would put Frank versus Ken Shamrock probably number 1 or number 2. It's a fight that should never happen.
We're a family of fighters, so it's not that big of a deal, really. I mean, they train in the gym together. Why not get paid to fight together?
I think Ken wins that fight. I think Ken's renting space in his head as far as fighting goes. I think Ken has, trained him and beat him down so much. I don't think he could get over that.
If they were to have fought, I believe Frank could win. Ken doesn't have the striking skills or the conditioning to be Frank.
Do it like Rocky and Apollo Creed, man. Go into a room, close the door, fight it out. Hug afterwards. Nobody needs to know who won and lose.
After I beat Tito, retirement suited me just fine. I got some acting gigs, wrote a book, and got involved in several business opportunities inside of MMA. One of them was the rebranding of Strikeforce. But eventually, I felt the pull of the cage stirring in my blood. I helped Scott Coker launch Strikeforce with the first sanctioned MMA event in the state of California. To make a mark, we renewed the oldest rivalry in the sport, Shamrock versus Gracie. First, I knocked out Caesar in 21 seconds. Then I lost to Henzo on a technicality. It didn't matter, though. San Jose was quickly becoming my town, and the HP Pavilion, my house.
When Frank came to fight here, he represented San Jose, and as time went on and the sport got a little bit more popular, the people embraced him. He was the hometown hero.
The Baroni fight, that's the fight where I really became aware of my brand. When I came out of that jersey, man, I just remember lifting my arms. Like, as the arms went up, the noise went up. It was just amazing. And then I knew I was on to something. The whole time, I'm picking on him, I'm talking to him, and he's just getting madder and madder and madder. After one really good right hand, I step back and I go, this is the moment, and he's gonna go out.
He looks at him, I'll never forget. You're going to sleep. And then minutes later, that is exactly what happened. And it's like, wow, this is poetry.
I was now the Strikeforce middleweight champion. A third title to go along with my WEC and UFC belts. But my reign as champ lasted less than a year. Kung Lee broke my arm with some vicious kicks, and I couldn't answer the bell for the fourth round. As soon as he kicked me, I could feel it. I was like, holy, he just broke my arm. And the bones are totally crooked and everything is jacked. I'd never been hurt like that.
It was the worst shape that I had ever seen him in. He was in a lot of pain. It was kind of scary.
I was worried that I might never be able to fight again. Luckily, that fear was replaced with joy when Amy and I had our little daughter, Nicolette. Soon after that, I was able to start training. And a year after my loss to Kung, I was ready to get back in the cage again.
When I found out that Frank Shamrock had agreed to fight Nick Diaz, I was not surprised at all, because when you look at the ingredients involving Nick Diaz, the bad boy from Stockton, and Frank Shamrock, the elder statesman, the iconic photo of Frank Shamrock going to shake his hand and Nick Diaz flipping him the bird, and all of the back and forth trash talking. Wow, you've got quite the cocktail.
I thought Frank was going to win from the moment he walked out of his dressing room. And I had seen Diaz have a couple fights, and I thought he was pretty good, but I didn't think he was going to handle Frank. Frank couldn't get going. Diaz had his number from the opening bell. It was hard to watch. It's a little more painful and unsettling when it's like a close friend.
You know, I could feel minute by minute that he was better than me. And there's nothing I can do about it.
I wanted the ref to stop it. It wasn't like I wanted sitting there trying to do damage.
After the fight, when it was stopped, Nick Diaz went to Frank Shamrock to pick him up, and he said to Frank Shamrock at the time, "Get up, you're the legend."
And I stood up, man. I always respected him for that. He didn't have to do that for me. I knew when I was standing up after the fight that the torch had been passed, and I knew Nick was the new me, the younger me, the next generation.
I am Frank Shamrock, in a way. Part of me is Frank Shamrock, and that's what I brought to the fight.
Sitting in the locker room after the fight, people were coming in and paying their respects. You could just tell the train had stopped.
Thanks again, Mick. I love you, bro.
I love you.
Thanks for coming
Take care of yourself. Warrior from hell you
love
are.
you, bro.
It was upsetting seeing this warrior sitting there all banged up.
I think Frank's darkest moment was after fighting Nick Diaz and realizing that he wasn't going to be fighting anymore. He was scared inside, like, what am I going to do next?
Not having fighting in my life was really difficult for me. I felt lost. Then I got even more bad news.
I got a call from Tanya, and she said that, Bob's real bad. He's in the hospital. He's had another heart attack. You should probably come see him.
Bob wanted to be able to say his piece to Frank and know that whatever conflict they had was over.
Frank had a choice in how he wanted to react or handle it. He left him laying there, not allowing him to go in peace.
Frank didn't come to the funeral. I think that upset Ken quite a bit.
I just can't understand how somebody can just blow somebody off. You know, what did he do to him to cause Frank to not go to his funeral? I mean, come on, man.
It was the fear, I think, of being a distraction, struggling with respect, and how much meaning there was in making an appearance at a funeral as opposed to, loving and respecting the person that died.
And I didn't know what to do. I really regret not calling him, because I still think about him all the time. Every time I see my name. He was my daddy.
Ken isn't the only brother of mine that I'm looking to reconnect with. I haven't seen my blood brother Perry for almost 7 years. He has a psychological disorder, and he's been living homeless in Redding, California for some time now. I'm worried about him, and I've decided I need to find him. I had 3 siblings growing up, Robin, Susie, and my older brother Perry. I haven't seen Perry for almost 8 years. Before going to Vegas to sit down and meet with my foster brother Ken, I need to find my blood brother Perry. Last I heard, he was homeless somewhere in Redding, California. Over a year ago, he wrote me and told me he needed money. I'm ashamed to say I never responded.
He didn't look good last time I saw him, so I'm worried about him. Man, I can't live like this, man.
I've been looking for you, man.
What brings you down, man?
We're traveling around looking at my life, from fighting to everything that happened in prison and all the shit. I heard from Mom maybe a month ago. She fell off the grid for about 6 months, and then Robin and her husband split up just last week. So she moved to Santa Barbara, so the family's kind of broken up.
I haven't been in contact with anybody since I quit using my laptop.
Yeah?
It's been about maybe 2 years.
I'm glad I found you.
I'm surprised you found me. It's rough down here. You don't get to do all the fun stuff you want to do.
Yeah. Perry, I'm giving you my home number.
Okay.
And if you need something, just let us know. Perry, I hate to say it, but I gotta go, dude. I hate to leave you here, too.
Oh, shit.
Here, be safe out here and get out of here if you can. Okay? And let me know if I can help you.
Okay.
All right?
All right. Thank you, man.
I love you.
8 years since I've seen him. I didn't know he was living like that. I just need some help. I gotta help him. I gotta help him get out of there.
Seeing how he's living now made me really sad and also guilty, knowing I haven't helped as much as I could have. Now I have to face a whole different set of emotions. It's time for me to head to Vegas to meet Ken.
I just can't understand how somebody can just blow somebody off. What did my dad do to him to cause Frank to not go to his funeral?
If Frank and Ken met today, it could go either really good or really bad.
I wouldn't mind just putting all the cards on the table. That would be therapeutic for everyone involved.
I've had a lot of complicated relationships in my life, but none more than Ken. He was the older brother that I idolized. He also beat the hell out of me, humiliated me on many occasions. It's been more than 15 years since we parted ways, and he still hates me for leaving the family. I'm really not sure if we're ready to put all this behind us.
There's a lot of stuff underneath the sea, a lot of bad things happening under there. My father passed away. That was really the only thing that had bound us together anyways. My dad gave him everything. And he spit on him. People asked Jesse, well, what if he gets smart with Ken? Is he gonna kick his ass? And my first reaction was, yeah, I'll come up out of the chair and I will literally beat the hell out of him.
Thanks for sitting down with me. And I just want to start by saying thanks for being my teacher and for giving me the martial arts. I look up to you. I think your way was the way.
I'm a little confused. The issue that you had with me was that you always felt like I was the one over the top of you, like you needed to get out and do your own thing.
Ken, you didn't believe I could be a super, fighter because I wasn't.
That's not true.
I know you wanted me to.
Oh my gosh! I didn't take anybody that I didn't think could do it. You passed that tryout. The only people that pass that tryout are people that are badasses. This is your own insecurity, man.
The journey I was on, bro, I was so damaged. When Dad passed, I couldn't even deal with that moment. I didn't even know what to do. And the hardest thing in the world was not to go. I did that out of respect. That's what I thought I was supposed to do.
Yeah, I don't buy that. I'm not saying this to be disrespectful to you. I'm not saying this to hurt you, but you were a coward. You were a coward. Everything that I knew of you, the way you stood up for yourself, the hard training that you went through to get to where you needed to be, all that went out the window when you couldn't come and face the man that helped you, the guy that saved your life, the guy that gave you the opportunity to train with me, and you didn't allow him to get any peace at all. You let him die with no closure.
Yeah, I know. I left because, he told me once I learned how to fight and once I, became a pro, that would be your equal. And, you know, when you just threw me down like that in front of the students and the fighters, and it's like, dude, it's not how you treat somebody.
We're fighters, for God's sakes.
I'm not a fighter. I'm a human being.
Frank, you're a fighter.
I know. I'm a human being.
I beat the hell out of everybody. I yelled at everybody.
Look, Bob was the first man ever to show me love. And when he told me, my love for you is conditional. And it's conditional on you making up with Ken and having a life with Ken. And I'm like, Ken, are you kidding me? He's crazier than I am. He's more up than I am. And I just realized, I was like, I can't do it.
You know who he asked for before he died? Do you know who he asked for?
Probably me, because I wasn't there.
I believe in my dad. And I believe he knew a lot when it came to psychology, working with kids. And he told me, he said that he thinks the only way you and me are ever going to get closure and ever going to move forward is if we had a fight. We could go in there, we could get it done, and all the anger and all the stuff that was pent up, we could get out to heal whatever it is that was going on there. And
do we have to beat each other up to get closure, though?
It's come on, dude. We did it in training and didn't get paid.
No, but I don't want to get hurt anymore.
Just have no bearing on anything that goes forward from here. If you do, great. If you don't, and it'll never be discussed or talked about ever outside of this. If we don't do it, it's just never happen. Either way, dude, I'm good.
Me too. Thank you, Ken.
I guess the only thing I have to say now is, man, hey, I ask for your forgiveness, man, for anything that I may have done to hurt you. I know I was stubborn. I know I was hard. But I didn't do any of that out of malice or hurtfulness.
Thank you, Ken.
Yeah.
I ask for your forgiveness as well. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings or disrespect you in any way.
No, I appreciate that.
Seriously.
All right, brother. Love you, man. I'm not sure we could have got it done any other way than like this, face to face, no way of skirting and getting around it.
I think a lot of what happened to him propelled him to greatness. That's why Frank has turned out the way he has. He has channeled all of that negativity and then just in a positive fashion built himself up. And it's a constant struggle. Do not kid yourself.
Frank Shamrock not just beat a lot of guys and won a lot of belts. He established a new threshold in terms of thinking about what MMA fighting is and what an MMA fighter should be.
I think in the future, Frank will go with his heart, his gut. I think he will get involved in martial arts again. It's something that's in him. Just never underestimate him.
When I decided to take this journey, I really didn't know what to expect. I knew I needed to find Perry, and I knew it was time to face Ken, and the rest of my past as well. But I had no idea how hard it would be. All my life, following the Warriors Code has taken me to places I was afraid to go. But always, when I got there, I was glad I made the journey. That's how I feel now. At peace with myself, as a Shamrock, as a fighter, and as a man.